Crackpot. I'm not sure if you've answered this already, but have you had any noteworthy moments after leaving Scientology where you go, whoa, I had that all backwards. I can't believe I ever thought otherwise. Or anything of that nature that comes to mind. Yeah, actually, I have that happen all the time. And when I talk about being in a recovery process from a destructive cult, Scientology, I'm talking about having those moments kind of over and over and over again, because you strip away like layers of an onion. You strip away these ideas and thought processes and patterns and concepts that are instilled by the L. Ron Hubbard's teachings, in my case. And you see the world differently as a result. And this is actually one of the reasons why I'm such a proponent of critical thinking, is because it allows, you know, when you're looking at the world that way, or using critical thinking tools to examine information or examine past beliefs or past ideas, it allows you to kind of be a bit more objective about it. And but there's still the, you know, the biases and the cognitive dissonance and the various things that go on. And so it's a gradual process, stripping some of this stuff away. But there are all kinds of things that I used to feel so sure of, so certain about when I was in Scientology, as to, you know, why people act the way they do, or why I acted the way I did, or what's the right thing to be thinking, or where, you know, what happens after we die. I mean, so many things. And all of that, so many of those things have just gone by the wayside. And now I look back on them and I'm kind of flummoxed that I believed some of it. Some more obvious than others, which actually is the thing that sparked me doing this series that I'm doing now on the Scientology basics and taking it all apart. And those videos aren't coming out once a week because I'm taking a really good hard look at Scientology's belief system and the methods and techniques of the practice of Scientology and the philosophic, you know, framework of it. And the more I'm looking at this, and the more I'm looking into where Hubbard came up with these ideas and how I used to, you know, use them, the more distance I'm getting from it, and I feel like the more objectivity I'm getting in regards to those beliefs, right? And that's been a really good process for me personally, right? So I would, you know, I'd encourage this kind of thing for anybody who's, you know, when I talk about education being a very important component of cult recovery, this is kind of the sort of thing I'm talking about. And the video that I did a few weeks ago on study tech is a good example of what I'm talking about, because I was fully immersed in study tech. And I thought, you know, having a dictionary and looking up words all the time, and even the little demonstrations and that sort of thing, I thought all that stuff was really important. I thought it was crucial to a good education that you have those tools available to you and that you use them to learn things. And after doing all the research, right, all the stuff I've done over the last few years, but then specifically researching that topic and looking at education in a kind of a more skeptical light, looking at the study tech in a more skeptical light, it really put some things in perspective, and it made me look at it and go, man, I spent such a long time being a proponent of that. And it wasn't that, here was an example of a case where I wasn't like, oh my God, that's totally off the rails. How could I have ever thought that? It was more of, it just came down in its importance level. There's nothing wrong with looking up words in a dictionary. That's what dictionaries are for. But this idea that that's the single thing that causes people to not be able to learn is ridiculous. It's absolutely ludicrous. And so you kind of remove that off the pedestal, right? That's what happened to me in doing you know, that video. So I think that's given me more perspective on stuff. And there's, you know, I never learned about the OT levels when I was in Scientology, so I never had to come out of that whole thought haze, you know. But the idea of the reactive mind and you know, going clear and the various mental mechanisms that exist, that Hubbard says exists, right? And looking at those more skeptically and you know, well, is this the thing or isn't this the thing? You know, that kind of a look at those, right, has really given me a lot of perspective on just how kooky a lot of Hubbard's assertions were. And also, I have to say, listening to Hubbard now, like his lectures, is a whole different experience than when I was in Scientology. I mean, night and day difference. You know, it's not that I can't stand the guy, it's that I listen to him and I just like, how did I ever give this any credence? I mean, he's so wandering around and so wordy and so he takes, you know, there was a lecture I was looking at the other day researching my next video on the Scientology basics thing, and he spends an hour doing a lecture rambling all over the field. I mean, here and there and here and there, and doesn't get to the point of the lecture, which is actually what the lecture was titled, right? For about 45 minutes. He's wandering around all over the place and then finally settles in and makes his point, which takes about 10 minutes to do. And then the lecture's over. And I just thought, you know, when I was in Scientology, I would have been spending so much time trying to understand all the significance and importance of all of this stuff he was talking about before he got around to making the point of the lecture. And now I look at it and I can see that he's just rambling. You know, so it's a whole different perspective on things. And so I would answer this question by saying that all of Scientology is kind of like, what was I thinking, you know? And that's kind of where I'm at now. And I'll continue giving this information out to you guys as we go through these basics and see if we can't deconstruct these things so that maybe current and certainly hopefully former Scientologists can watch this series and kind of deconstruct these ideas in the same way that I've been doing and hopefully recover from the whole thing faster as a result.